Thank you everybody for joining us. So yeah, if you want to plug in where you're from, you are probably, or maybe this is your first time joining us, but if not, you'll see our faces are familiar. So I'm Lisa Wurm. I'm with Fair Districts, Ohio. And we also have Trevor Martin here and Colin Marazzi from the ACLU. And we have our loyal assists this evening. Tiffany and Alice will be assisting us. So Tiffany will be putting some links in the chat. Hi, Tiffany. And providing positive attitude, which we all need that kind of energy right now. And Alice will be doing some directing and recording. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Looks like we've got people from all over. I know this week we're continuing our Picket to Protest, and we've had people come from down all around Ohio to Columbus. So it's been really great to see some of those names in the side too. All righty. Here we go. So we're going to start tonight with the agenda. So we're going tonight we'll be going over about giving some updates about what's going on. So you guys will get a little more insight on what's happening or what's not happening. And we'll also have some information about testimony as much as we can give, but we'll be going over the tips and tricks. And then Trevor's here to present on community maps. So while all of you may be familiar with how to do community maps, he's really going to give us a hands-on demo of how to look at the old maps and the winning maps or any maps that might be submitted and compare your community info. And then Colin's going to help us out with some content of what you should do with the community info and how to put that into your testimony and what to talk about. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat. Alice and Tiffany will be monitoring it. You're also welcome to put them in the Q&A, but we'll try to stop periodically and ask some questions as well in addition to the end. Okay. So where are we at? Just to review, the Ohio Redistricting Commission. So they did pass the highly gerrymandered House and Senate state maps. So unfortunately, as we anticipated, they were passed along party lines and mostly behind closed doors. And the 3 statewide commissioners, as we learned today, actually, they did not have a lot to do with the map making, and they also expressed concerns about how the maps ended up. So I find this very interesting from a political analysis standpoint. We learned this from some news articles regarding their depositions in our lawsuit. So we are challenging them in the lawsuit as well. I should say Fair District's partners are. So there are 3 separate lawsuits, and tonight I can't speak to the other 2 lawsuits, but so I will just briefly review what the League of Women Voters and the ACLU lawsuit covers. Okay, so we filed on September 23rd, and there will be a hearing on December 8th. So this, as far as I know, it's the only lawsuit to receive a hearing so far. And what the expectation to get out of it is if we win, then new state house maps will need to be drawn. So what it focuses on, the lawsuit, is the partisan gerrymandering aspect, as well as the fact that it does not actually represent the voters of Ohio. So Colin, did you want to add anything? I should have given you a chance, but you're welcome to if you'd like.
No, I guess the one thing I would add is I've mentioned this on a couple other webinars, but if you'd like to stay up to date on all case happenings, the Ohio Supreme Court website actually has a docket tracking portal, so you can actually go into the secretary or to the Supreme Court website and use that to get email updates when any sort of official filings or decisions are made. And again, that's a docket tracking tool, and the docket number for the League of Women Voters and A. Philip Randolph lawsuit is 2021-1193. I'll say that again. So if you would like to write it down, it is 2021-1193. You can go online and sign up to get email updates on that. It's very helpful and allows you to stay up to date in real time. And I encourage you all to do it.
Thank you, Colin. Oh, that's super helpful. Okay. So for those who want to stay in the up to date, in the know. All right. So while we have this court case pending on the state maps, we are transitioning to congressional maps, which is what we'll talk about today. So they've already missed one deadline, and we are quickly approaching the October 31st deadline for the Redistricting Commission to pass the 10-year maps. So what we heard was the rumors that the hearings were going to be this week. We, as is we deal with in rumors, we don't know if it's true, but we figured we should just be prepared. So they may announce them and have them the same day. We're not entirely sure about that. So here we are in the process. You can see that we're in stage 2, which means the Redistricting Commission has the responsibility, and if they fail to meet the deadline, then it will be passed back to the General Assembly, and they have until November 30th. So the part of this webinar is to prepare for this week or potentially whatever may come in November. So it's hard to predict at this point. And what is required of the public hearings. So we may have additional hearings, just like the Redistricting Commission held those week-long hearings, but we may only have the constitutionally required hearings. We're not quite sure. And the Citizens Redistricting Commission has been having some hearings as well. So it can get a little confusing. So I just wanted to provide some clarification. So I'm just going to pause here for a moment and make sure I can answer any questions we have. Okay, I see Iris has a question. What if the Ohio Supreme Court says the current maps are unconstitutional and send them back to the State House and they draw equally unconstitutional maps? I don't actually know the answer to that, Iris. I can imagine that they would probably send them back again. I wouldn't know, since this is going to be a new legal action for us. So this is all the first time we're using these reforms. So I would assume they would at least be somewhat better, but I guess it would, if they're unacceptable, they would have to do it again. That would be my guess, as someone who's dealt in this. Okay. So I'll check the chat as well. So there was a question regarding the 3 members of the Redistricting Commission. Did they just admit that they had no part in building the maps? So I will say that from what I read in the news today, it seemed like they did admit to that, not having any real part in building the maps. I found that to be a little shocking, considering the importance of the maps. But that doesn't mean that they weren't brought in on some of the decision making. So there's the difference between answering a question in full and answering what you're asked. So they may not have physically drawn the lines, but that doesn't mean that they would approve or approve or not approve of certain lines, or they somebody losing their district, like those overall things. So I think that's, this is what the court process is for, is figuring out exactly what that means. I do think it was a calculated response, and maybe they learned their lesson from last time, in which they had a lot of text and email chains about the maps and decided that they were not going to put that train, I guess, this time. So I also got some feedback from Mimi asking us to directly link the winning maps from your homepage. Just so you know, Mimi, I did update the website, so they are right there on our homepage. So you'll be able to find our winning competition maps. Okay, so I think that's all there we got there. What do you got, Trevor?
The winning maps were also uploaded to the Redistricting Commission website on the 11th of October. You'll find those if you go to the Redistricting Commission, the website that you have there, redistricting.ohio.gov, and you'll go into the Maps tab. We'll have John Hagner, Paul Neves, and Riley Jones, our three Fair Districts Ohio winners, there that you could download, and their testimony should be included in there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so today we're prepping for testimony. So regardless of those updates, what we have moving forward is questions remain about when we will give testimony, how testimony might look differently this time than it would with the Redistricting Commission hearings, and ways that it might look similar as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So this is the overall basics of writing, submitting, and giving testimony. So you want to make sure that your testimony covers who you are, where you're from, and how it directly affects you, and that it should be short, one page or two, especially if you're presenting. We know that they limited time on some of the hearings, and we expect if there is a large amount of people are able to show up, that they again will limit the time. So we're not 100% sure how they're going to accept testimony, but we'll make that available as soon as we know. But all we can really do is base off what the Redistricting Commission did. We don't know if they're going to do it again, but I would assume the website would be where you would submit that, the Redistricting Commission website. So generally, if you're going to be giving testimony, which I think about between 400 and 500 of people gave testimony, which was just incredible for the Redistricting Commission hearings. So sometimes that meant that the seats were full and we had overflow. So the best thing you can do is try to get a seat early and get settled. And then during some of the hearings, they asked us not to clap. So this time I would definitely recommend that, because I guess they have some folks with listening devices that impacts how those devices work. So the best thing you can do is be respectful as possible. That doesn't mean that you don't speak with passion. That doesn't mean that sometimes you might yell or get upset. But as we know, they didn't quite listen to us last time. So we can still give that passion in a way that is respectful, but also very serious, because that is the stage that we are at right now. So wear your Fair District shirts if you have one, or buttons. Otherwise, dress professionally and respectfully for the process. So it's about your story, it's about who you are and why you're there. So I covered some of these rules, but just so you know, generally they've been pretty nice to the witnesses and have not ask too many leading questions, which was a change from when the reforms were passed in 2018. So the best thing you can really do is remember that you're telling your story. So relax, breathe, bring some snacks, and be ready to sit for a little while. Okay, so what happened last time was that we wanted to give testimony on maps, but there weren't any maps. So what do we really do in that situation? So how do we adjust our testimony if there are no congressional maps and they have hearings regardless? Or what if they were in the middle of two maps and we're not sure what to do? So now we're going to have Trevor show us how we can map your district. And even if you've seen this before, this will be really helpful because he's going to show us how to use the Dave's Redistricting to zoom in on the congressional winning maps from our competition, as well as how to find your district so you can talk more effectively about that. So I'll let Trevor handle it from here.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Everyone should see the welcome to Dave's Redistricting, correct? All right. So I think most of you on here have probably heard me speak about community mapping before, and maybe tired of hearing it. Today is going to be a little different. The community is still very important, but what I want to do today is teach folks how to take hopefully we have maps by the time these public hearings come around. But in case we don't, we could still look into our current congressional maps and some of the other maps that have been, our winning competition maps to our fair districts congressional map drawing contest. Also the Ohio Princeton, the Princeton gerrymandering project has a bunch of maps that they have given scorecards to. They have the Citizens Redistricting Commission map on here that you could take a look at. Also, our Ohio Redistricting Commission website, as we, just was saying, the winner, our competition winners are on there. You could download these maps and then upload those into Dave's Redistricting. And then on our homepage of fairdistrictsohio.org, you have the Fair Districts winning maps here. And so if you go into, this is a free web tool for use of the public, and you could we have links of those maps on our page, which that'll just take you right to the map. But you can go to davesredistricting.org. You'll hit Ohio here. And then these are our current congressional maps, our state maps here. If you scroll down, there's some notable maps that other folks, like I said, this is a free public open tool. So lots of folks have submitted maps, and here you have some of the best, most competitive, most proportional, most compact maps that have been submitted through the Dave's Redistricting site that has been analyzed by their algorithms. And so you could look at those maps. We'll take a look at the current congressional map, and it takes a little bit of time to upload. So I've already done it over here. So what I hear a lot of folks when they're trying to analyze these maps is like, this is what you'll get, and you'll just see a bunch of shapes. This is our current congressional map, so the shapes are particularly obscene. But you can't really tell what you're looking at. Folks want to zoom in on their neighborhoods, on their communities, and really tell stories about how this is impacting their day-to-day lives. And so what you first want to do here is you'll go down to the bottom left here, and you'll see this overlays. And what you want is to make sure this background map here is checked. And what that does is bring up like the kind of Google map in the background. And it's still a little bit hard to see. So I like to bring down this, there's like a sliding opacity here. You could bring that down and then see a little bit better your streets down here. So you could zoom in on here on the east side of Columbus, Bronzeville neighborhood, and I can get down to, actual streets and see where these districts are coming in and cutting out communities. So you got Westerville, Gahanna here. And then there's some other ones here. There's the county lines. You could check, just zoom in and out using your wheel here, but you got your county lines, your precinct lines, which are individual voting precincts. And then, oops, I'm sorry. And then your city lines. And city lines are helpful often. So you can see these are often follow school district lines. So for example, here, we have a lot of folks that are very active in the Gahanna area. And, they would like to keep the city of Gahanna whole. And so here you see how Gahanna is cut up here because you're able to see the city lines here. And so you're able to, get specifics and go into your testimony and tell, my street here, on the corner, my neighbors are in one district and everybody else on my street is in another district. And so, and then these labels here are just district numbers, county names, and whatnot. But what I also wanted to show you is, let's get rid of these city lines. Another important thing is partisan leanings and the demographics of communities. And so here you have the map colors here. You could switch those on and off really quickly just by checking those, and you can see the different underneath. If you check the demographics here, this is all minorities. You could choose specific demographics. Look at the Black population, Columbus, Native population, Asian population. And then also you could do the partisan lean. And so here you got your partisan leanings in Columbus and the surrounding areas. Now you can get more specific here. On the right, you have the precinct details. And that'll, when you're hovering over a certain voting precinct. So you'll see these precinct lines again. These are all voting precincts. So if you're hovering over one of these and you look to the right here in that legend, it'll tell you the total population, the voting age population, and the Democratic and Republican and third party votes through the 2016 and 2020 statewide elections. And you could, just move over each of these shapes, which is a different voting precinct, to see how those folks have voted. Now you can go larger. Up here, you have precinct, county, and city. This is on precinct. If you check county, now if you look over there in the right, it says county details up there. And so that's the entire total population and voting age population and partisan breakup of Franklin County. You could jump over to Delaware here. And then you could also, again, do that in cities. So, I could check out here Bexley, which is an enclave in Columbus, predominantly white enclave here in Columbus. So you can see that, just by hovering over the city of Bexley, the city of Whitehall here. So again, you have get down into these important demographic and partisan leanings that are important to these district maps. And then up here in the top left, you'll have your district selector. And that, if you have this, um, I'm sorry, here's your district details. This is, let's get rid of these lines here. Sorry, we'll put these district map colors back on. There we go. So here's your district selector. You choose, you select which district you want to highlight here. So we got, well, we'll do 3 since we're right here on Columbus. So you'll check that box or that circle there, and then you'll get your details here. And this will be for the entire District 3. So your total population, your voting age population, and then your partisan makeup of the district here. So again, you have your district, your county, your city, your precinct, all that important info. And then up here in the top, finally, just in the up here in the top, you'll have statistics. So you could actually, kind of see these better, download, print these out, where you have your districts here on the left and your total population, your partisan leanings, and your demographics all right here, where you could compare to one another. Then if you hit this analyze here, this gives you the ratings of the current congressional, it says 2020 because it's using the current census data, but it's still the current congressional district lines. But this is the rating, very, very poor compared to our winners who were, this is, I think, look, we could just take a quick glance here and see this is about 130 some points altogether. Our winners had over 320. So, and then you can roll down here and get, the goods on proportionality, competitiveness, minority representation. And again, you could download all this, export it, share it, and include that in your testimony. You could, take screenshots of certain areas where you believe is particularly egregious, and submit those within your testimony. And then, again, here's John Hagner's map. Here's our congressional winner. Again, most of the time when you first upload these maps, you won't have any of these overlays checked. So the first thing you want to do again is just make sure you got that background map checked. And then
Trevor, I have
just
a
go ahead and
question.
have fun. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay, so you showed us the current congressional map, right? That was what you
Right.
just showed us. And then now we're moving to John's map. So this would be one of the winners.
Yes.
So it would be like looking at your old district and the old congressional map or your current district, right? And then this would be something we could compare it to,
Right.
right? Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you.
And then like I was showing right when I started, there's again, like not you're 100% of folks aren't always ever going to agree on one map, so we've got 3 great maps that were voted on by a large panel of experts through on gerrymandering and communities, and good governance, but again, there's so many, like we have if you look, there's 67 maps that have been submitted. Jeff Wise was a winner of our state maps. He's got a congressional map up here. 67 maps have been submitted to the Redistricting Commission. They're acting like it's so difficult to sit down and draw a map. Here's 67 maps submitted by Ohioans who just care enough about community and democracy to do what's right. And you could take any one of those maps and show include them in your testimony and tell why that is a better map than we currently have, or whatever they're coming up with behind closed doors. So I think that's all I have. If anyone's got any, and then Tiffany, and in fact I'll throw my email in there. If anyone's got questions, I was doing a lot of training on Districtor, but I could sit down and go into a little bit more in depth with folks if they want to attempt at making their own map, or just playing around with some of the ones that we have here, because any of these maps here you could make a copy of as well and play around with and make it your own. So it's kind of fun.
So you could zoom the way that you zoomed in on the other one, you just zoomed in on, you could zoom in on this one too.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yep.
the same.
Yep. And like over here it says view only, but if you hit this little paint brush, I guess this is over here, you can make a copy of this where you could edit it. And Dave's Redistricting, you do need to create an account to like edit and save maps, but all you need is an email address. It's free. All you need is an email address, and then you've got you can have a bunch of maps saved here, and you could edit and play around with those. And so
technically, even if so we have some of these winning maps, which are pretty fantastic, but I'm sure they're not perfect, right? Even though we held what we learned from the last time is that with our state map winners is that what people wanted to have is an option for input. So we did give option for input on the congressional winners. But what I see, what you're kind of saying, Trevor, is that what you could do is even take the competitive maps that won for our competition and like edit those yourself and submit those yourself too, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a better idea, that the commission should hear it. If you have a better idea, they should hear it.
Because
they should see it.
Yeah, it takes negotiation, and the fair districts competition maps. I believe they have been uploaded to the Redistricting Commission webpage.
Yeah.
So you could view them there as well. I mean, that's been the disadvantage too, is that we've been the ones creating these maps in district or district for this Dave's Redistricting, right? So the maps that get released have not been linked from the government, I should say, have not been linked in Dave's Redistricting. So we've done that as well to help.
Yeah, and is I'm sure is if they do sneak out some maps a couple days before a hearing at the end of the month, maybe it's like, oh, surprise, we've had this map we've been working on that we're going to look at tomorrow. It's as soon as we get the files to that map, we'll upload it onto Dave's Redistricting and provide a link so everyone can take a look themselves. Since that's one of the first things that should happen from that commission, is that they should provide it to the on the website with a link already to Dave's redistricting or any other free public tool to for so folks can analyze it and take a look themselves, and instead of having to be, some kind of, you know, tech wizard to extract, uh, files and, convert them from zip folders into, it's a bunch of jargon people don't want to deal with. So like, why not just an easy, quick link right to your map so we could look at it as soon as you release it.
That would be something that we would advocate for. I'm just going to have some questions for you that I see are here from the chat, Trevor. Oh, sorry about that. I lost it. So Nancy was wondering if you could tell how many views a map has had by looking at them. Oh, from the Redistricting Commission website. I don't know if you know the answer to that, Trevor. I don't think you can tell if anyone has even looked at them.
No, I don't think
No.
so. And for you have to download them onto your
even
computer,
show,
and
yeah.
and I
mean,
don't think they show how many downloads they've had.
They did take, I will say from the hearings last time, we knew that they did look at the winning maps from
Yeah.
our competition. They got a little upset about that. I don't know if upset's the right word, but they definitely saw them. So we know that they will be looking, because that's part of the reason why we did the competition. We felt it was important to demonstrate that it is possible to draw these maps. Not that you all need to be responsible. Don't feel like you need to be an expert. And we did see some of the maps that were submitted, I would say a little bit overanalyzed for imperfections. But we have those rules from the Constitution that talk about trying to meet all the priorities, and it can be done. And I do like Joanne's suggestion that if you don't want to zoom in on your community, though that would provide some extra boost to your testimony, you can always say there's this map is better. Clearly you've demonstrated that you haven't been able to do that. So I think I'm looking from a question from Bruce. Bruce, if you could restate that, I don't quite understand it. How is picking the bill for the defense? So if you could restate that. So I can't say, and William has a question about instances nationally where a lawsuit was successful in challenging the constitutionality of districts. What is the average timeline of when maps are successfully drawn? That is something I don't know the answer to nationally. I think that this honestly is a relatively new system that we've got going on here because the US Supreme Court has decided not to talk about gerrymandering. So I don't know if we have super clarification on that, but we do have some clarification from Bruce on his question, who is picking up the bill for the defense. Oh, we are. That's what you mean. Okay, right. So, we've, the ACLU has filed this lawsuit and the government must defend it, and our taxpayer dollars are going towards the lawsuit, which is extremely frustrating that we have to fight against maps that we said we didn't win in the first place. So you can always include that in your testimony. All right, so we'll take some more questions. Oh, Bill, Bruce, So we have some pro bono attorneys that are helping us out with the court case, but we also are grateful for our partners and for our donors to help support our mission. So that's it's not fun to have to go to court, but this is what we are prepared to do, financially or otherwise. All right, so I'm going to let Colin talk a little bit about, and Colin, if you want to reintroduce yourself, about how we might best incorporate some of these community maps into our testimony. So Colin, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, Lisa. And thank you, everybody, for being here. My portion of tonight's program is going to be relatively short and sweet, because the beauty of it is you really can't give a wrong interpretation, you being the person who's coming to testify, on what redistricting in your community map means for you. And as we look back and we saw the tips and the rules for giving testimony, being authentic and telling your story is the most important thing that you can do. So, we've seen and we've experienced these maps now for the last 10 years. And, I think everybody can agree that there are obvious flaws that have really led to a detriment in our governance and in our abilities to have our voices heard. What we want to try to talk about is, what are maintaining our communities of interest in a way that our current congressional map does not. If you live in Sylvania, you are in a same congressional district as somebody in Hardin County, as opposed to somebody who lives 20 minutes away from you in Toledo. If you live in Norwood in Cincinnati, you're in a district with somebody from Piketon in Pike County, and not, somebody from Mount Pleasant who lives right down the road from you. So we've experienced and we've lived the corruption that is the past decades gerrymandered congressional maps. And we've seen it, and we've seen the effects of these maps on our daily lives, the negative impacts of not being able to get any sort of, functioning governance in Washington, D.C. So we want to make sure to try to talk about maintaining our communities as whole as possible. And the good news is that the new rules that are in the Ohio Constitution that were passed in 2018 lend themselves to that. And I say lend themselves to that and not require that. So, and we're going to get into that. One of the new rules, so in comparison to the General Assembly maps, the building blocks of our congressional districts are counties, whereas for the General Assembly, they were cities and municipalities. So when we're talking about congressional maps, the goal, some prescribed and some aspirational, is to keep as many counties together as possible. There's a hard number of 65 counties in the state of Ohio that have to be wholly contained inside one congressional district. 18 counties can be split once, and up to 5 counties can be split no more than twice. So you really see an onus put on keeping these counties together, which in theory and in practice will result in less cracking and packing. We won't see a snake on the lake type district where it slithers across the northern shores of Ohio into Lake Erie, or that we have the rubber duck, the Jim Jordan's rubber duck that stretches from Lorain County all the way down into central, western, even southern Ohio. So there's a big, aspect of keeping those communities together and trying to keep one whole county in each congressional district, which we know can't happen all the time because we have 3 large counties that actually have too many people to have a single congressional district in them, and those being the 3 Cs, or I guess I should say Cuyahoga, Hamilton, and Franklin. Also, there are new rules about keeping Ohio's large urban areas together. And that's what I meant. So Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland all have to be contained inside a single congressional district. This is new, as we know from our current map, where Cincinnati is surgically split in two, putting one in the first district and then in the second district. And then Cleveland and Cuyahoga County is, really just a maze of gerrymandering. I would say royalty. It's one of the best gerrymandered jobs I've ever seen, to be frank. But those can't happen. Those major urban cities and Ohio's legacy cities like Toledo and Akron and Dayton need to be contained in a single district. So when you're talking about and when you're thinking about what you want to include in your testimony, always, always, always start off with going local and talking about how this how redistricting and gerrymandering has impacted you and your community. Talk about areas of your neighborhood that are separated and sucked out into a different congressional district, and how that's limited your ability to advocate for your shared interests. But if you want to talk in a more global perspective of the map in general, please, I would just say the focus and the onus is on limiting the number of county splits, making sure Ohio's large urban areas are maintained and intact, and also, really trying to foster as few county splits as possible. It should be noted, and I don't know if I have the exact number, but John Hagner, the Fair District's first place winner for congressional maps, I think he only had 9 county splits total. So far fewer than what is actually allotted in the new constitutional language. The fact that 18 counties can be split once and up to 5 can be split no more than twice. That does leave room. There's certainly a lot of discretion there. But it's going to be our job as advocates and as people who come before either the Redistricting Commission or the Joint Legislative Committee, if the commission were to not meet its deadline, sharing with them our goal for not only just adhering to the lowest common denominator of these reforms, but actually striving to achieve its purpose and its spirit. I'd be happy to take any questions. Please feel free to contact us if you have any specific questions regarding your testimony. We'd be more than happy to help troubleshoot any ideas or walk through anything for you.
Great, thank you so much, Colin. That was really helpful. I'm always impressed with your ability to remember the exact roles. So we did have a question from Gary Gale. He was asking, it looks like, Gary, you might have a really specific questions about which counties are in the group of 65 and the group of 8, and which are in the group of 5. That might be. Oh, you can answer that. Okay.
Yeah, I can see that. And Gary, the easiest way I can say that is it's completely, that is left completely to the discretion of the map drawers themselves. If you would look at the state of Ohio and our political geography and our population density, I think when we're talking about the group of 65 that will not be split, definitely favors smaller, rural, less populated counties, and the counties that, the 5 that could be split up to twice, one would have to assume would be our larger urban counties. Just for practical reasons, you can't have one county, Cuyahoga County is too big. There's too many people for it to be one congressional district. Same thing with Hamilton, same thing with Franklin. But what we're seeing here and what we're going to have to really pay attention to, and what we're really going to have to look at, is when you're seeing, a cluster of counties that seem to be sharing or cutting through a lot of different counties, where they're reaching in and pulling out specific pockets of populations That's what we really want to pay attention to. So that's a good question, but we're just going to have to wait and see which counties end up getting cut and which ones are left whole.
Yeah, we are in a wait and see sort of pattern. So, oh, Trevor, just a quick question from Benita. What is the population size for a congressional district now based on the census? It's always listed in the maps usually. I can't remember off the top of my head how many, what the population. Oh, look, Gary's on it. 786,000. 629 is the population size. Is that correct, Trevor? Yes, you're on mute, just so you know. Did you already say that? We couldn't hear you.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yes, I was trying to find it, but yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's now 700 and up there. It 80. I'm not exactly sure, but it's right around with Gary's. I'm sure Gary's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary's probably right. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, so what I'm going to do now to close this out is to talk about things that we can do in addition to testimony. So Mary asked that, and we'll talk a little bit more about what else we can do, because I know a lot of you have some really good points and are really frustrated, and it's what we need to keep doing to move forward. And I will say, we'll talk a little bit about this, as someone who has been working in and around state government for 15 years, and done my fair share of protests. It was quite cathartic to go down to the State House and yell some things this week. So I highly recommend that as an option. So I will just share my screen here. Hold on just a moment.
Yeah. I've been down there every afternoon last week and again today, and we've had such a great turnout, and we've had folks coming from like all over the state. It's really nice to see, and we make a lot of noise and have a good time doing it. So
great. Yes, it's
come on
great.
out. Come on out.
Okay, so in addition to showing up tonight and prepping your testimony, because we don't know what that's going to look like, we have some additional things you can do. So you can send an email to the commissioner members and tell them to get to work. We are still focusing on the 3 statewide members, regardless of whatever they say about not being involved in map making. I have my doubts about that. And so I would recommend that we email the commission members and continue to call them. I know that it's frustrating, and we all just want more transparency, but that's what we knew we were going to have to fight through this process. So the petition is still open, and we can still make noise in the media as well as outside of the State House. So we're having this week and last week, we're having the Picket to Protest, which will culminate this Thursday with we've reserved the State House and have a sound speaker available. So it will be the big event on the 28th, and they will be in attendance that day, the legislature, I should say. So we are still protesting every day. It's actually really good fun to come down there, as Trevor was saying, and annoy people, because that's what we even got to yell at Speaker Cup. So I sadly missed that day, but sometimes the legislators do walk by. If anything, it gets out some frustration. So we have this available as an event on Facebook. as well as signing up for that final day or any day. So one final, you can also give. We still need your support for additional activities. We still have yard signs and postcards available, so you can sign up for those as well. So those are what we're focusing on. We understand and share your frustration about not getting through to folks, which is why we're putting pressure on the statewide. So we appreciate your time tonight. If you need additional resources, we're here to answer further questions. Anything that you need, we're happy to, as Trevor said, to help you learn how to see your community on the map. If you want to zoom in on your area, or do the overlay, because it can be pretty eye-opening to see what that's like for your community. And you live it, so make sure you talk about yourself. Do any of my panelists have anything to add before we go?
I just threw my email in there
Great.
in case anyone wanted to talk more about software.
Yes, we love software. Actually, this is amazing. It's pretty phenomenal that we have these tools this time. 10 years ago,
Yeah.
this was not even remotely an option. So thank you all so much for coming tonight. Stay tuned for more updates from us. Our next event will probably be our huddle, but we may see you down at the commission or the legislature. So we appreciate your patience and hard work and dedication to this cause. So everybody have a lovely night, and we will be in touch soon.
Thank you, everyone.